At this time, we are now seeing on the screen where we'll be going through the basic rescue honor. Our able instructor, Master Guide Everton Faulkner, will be taking us through the proceedings. Everton, over to you.
Okay, Javon. Thank you very much. All right, good morning, everyone. I hope and trust that we all had a good night's rest. I want to take this opportunity to welcome each and everyone to this our basic rescue training. Indeed, this aspect of our training, as of every other honor that we would have done and will be doing, is of importance to us in the way forward. As master guides and as MITs, each lesson that is taught is of importance to us in more ways than one. Since we intend to share our experiences in leading pathfinders and young people, it is critical that we get the necessary training in order to effectively lead our boys and girls. Basic rescue is one of those critical honor that I want to ensure that each and every one of us take seriously. Because since we're going to be leading boys and girls in any eventualities that we have to go out, and God forbid that something happens, as master guides and master guides in training, they would have been equipped enough to take control of these situations. So as we participate in this morning's exercise, I hope and trust that we will leave this room today with a basic understanding of what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and the reason why we should do it. Okay, so let me hope that students are ready as we seek to begin our class. All right, the honors requirement is a simple one. One it is, if carefully watched, with the understanding of how to do what. All right, this is the honor requirement. We look at what is the definition of an emergency rescue. Number two, we also will look at show how to safely rescue a person from the following situations. A, being in contact with live electric wire. And out of these 11 questions, you will be asked to answer, with the exception of 7, 8, 9, and 10, because this honor will be done in two parts. So 8, 9, and 10 will be the practical part of this training. So we're looking at 11 questions with the exception of 7, 8, 9, and 10. So being in contact with live electric wire, a room filled with fume or smoke, one's clothes on fire, drowning using a non-swimming rescue, or we also look at ice incidents. Show 3 ways of attracting and communicating with rescue aircraft. Know 6 indications for the need of an immediate rescue. Know 6 procedures to follow before moving a victim from life-threatening situations. Know 5 principles involved in moving a victim from a life-threatening situation. And this is number 7, which will go in our second phase of this training. So we go down. Number 8, number 9, and number 10. So all these we will look at in the second part of the training. Number 11, what steps should be taken before reporting the lost person, and what information will be needed when reporting a lost person, and how is a search for a lost person conducted in a wilderness area. So all these are the requirements and the questions that you will need to answer in order to complete this honor. And the bottom of your note, you are required to submit a folder answering all 11 questions. And as I just explained, for questions that required practical demonstration, you will ask to list the steps and include pictures as necessary. All right, let me repeat that for your understanding. You are required to submit a folder answering all 11 questions. For questions that required practical demonstration, that is 7, 8, 9, and 10, you will list the steps and include pictures. So you will list the steps that is required, how you would do those practical demonstrations. All right, any questions so far?
Oh, sir.
Okay, we move on. So these are the objectives that we'll be looking at. So define an emergency. The definition of an emergency rescue. The signs indicating the need of an immediate rescue. And the procedure to follow before moving a victim from life-threatening situation, as we have just looked at earlier. So these are the objectives. And in every situation that you will take on, there must be an objective. There must be a need in every rescue that will be performed. You must have an objective, and that objective needs to be followed in order to have a successful rescue. And the procedures to follow before moving a victim is also critical, and it is very important that you understand what you're doing and the purpose for which you are doing it. So we jump down to number 5, how to safely rescue a person from the following situations. And we'll look at those as we continue on this slide. Objective number 6, attracting an aircraft using distress signal. And the steps that should be taken before reporting a lost person. And these are things that will happen in our everyday lives. We might not see the need for them now, but as long as we live, somehow, somewhere, they will become necessary to us. Number 8, information that will be needed when you report a lost person. And how is a search for a lost person conducted in the wilderness area? I'll share this passage of scripture with you. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. So, therefore, we will not fear. And this is coming from Psalms 46, verse 1 and 2. It says, God is our refuge, and he is our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, I will not fear. So in every situation that we come up on, we should always keep in view, forefront of our mind, that we have a refuge. We have a present helper who is always there for us. So whatever we seek to do, we must first remember that God is our refuge and our strength. We look at the definition of an emergency rescue. Let me ask a question though. What is an emergency rescue? A rescue is the act of removing someone from danger. So a rescue have to involve some form of danger to the individual. So the definition is a rescue is the act of removing someone from danger. And I will also add to that, and also to remove the danger from the individual. Because there are instances wherein the individual will be trapped in some way, wherein it is difficult to move the individual based on the type of injury that one would suffer. So it is easier then to move the danger away from the individual than to move the individual from the danger. All right? So that is what the definition speaks to. As was said, an emergency rescue is a technical term for a rescue taking place under hazardous circumstances and with high risk to the rescuer personnel, but must be done immediately to save a person's life. So whatever rescue we're going to perform, the aim in mind is to save a life. And I will add by telling you that the very life that you save could be yours. Because I will hasten to tell you that whatever rescue you're going to perform, you must always remember that your safety comes first. Trying to help someone is good, but never put yourself at risk. Never place yourself at a disadvantage wherein your life will be compromised. So remember the principle in trying to save or to help, that your safety comes first. All right? But the rescue of that individual must be immediate, and it have to be done. Whether it is be done by you as individual or you get help. But in whichever case, a rescue must be done. All right, signs of an immediate rescue. I asked a question to the class. What are some of the signs that you would see that will tell you that this person needs an emergency rescue? Or what you're seeing calls for an emergency?
two indications in the chat, Master Guide Fontner, is someone crying for help, someone struggling to breathe, an individual struggling to get themselves free from something.
Okay, so those are some signs that indicate the need of an immediate rescue. Okay, correct. And with this in mind, if you are the individual closest to that situation, then you know that you will have to be the one to perform such a rescue. With the same principle that I just outlined, to ensure that you are protected. All right, so we can move on.
Before you move on, Master Guide Fontner, question. Should the rescuer assess the situation before acting?
Good question. In every act of you perform as that relates to rescue or first aid, you must first assess the situation. You must first assess your surrounding before you attempt to do anything at all. Because you will need to know why the person is where the person is, how the person gets there, so you do not fall to the same trap. So for instance, you heard a crying coming from a pit. You rush to the scene. You need to find out first how the person get down into that hole. Did they slip? You need to know from which angle do you approach that hole from, that you don't walk the same path that that person walked when they had fallen in that pit. You came upon a motor vehicle accident. You saw a car overturned. You saw the individuals either in the car or outside lying beside the car. You don't rush over immediately and trying to assist. You first assess the situation, assess your surrounding, look for signs of gas leak, oil leak. Look at the car is on the side of about to turn over on the individual. So these are things that you look for before you rush into trying to help. Because in doing this, you'll put yourself at risk. Okay? I hope that answered your question. The person that said, one of the things you can look for, the victim stopped breathing, which is correct. And how do you know that a victim stops breathing? What signs do you look for to know whether or not you have breathing circulation taking place? Question to the class.
Rise and fall of the chest.
So you look for a rise and fall of the chest. Correct? Any other?
All right, so we have that response again in the chat, along with low pulse movement.
All right, low pulse movement. One will need to know how to check for pulse, because that answer always come up, even in our first aid presentation, where we talk about checking for signs of life. Persons always rush to the checking of pulse, but not everybody would know where to look for a pulse and what exactly they're feeling for. So even though we can do that, but not every signs of a pulse means that you're getting what you're looking for. All right?
All right, so I'll proceed to provide you with the remaining answers in the chat. So check pulse at the carotid artery in the neck. Place hand under nose to feel if there is any air coming out.
All right. All right, good. So that the victim stops breathing. The victim has severe bleeding. The class will share with me what are some of the steps you can take if someone have severe bleeding.
Identify where the bleeding is coming from. Compress the wound. If there is cotton on site, you can use it to compress the wound.
Okay, all right. Since you mentioned compress the wound, how do you compress the wound in order to stop a profuse bleeding? There's also a procedure in doing that. So let me hear from somebody. How do you suppress a wound to stop bleeding?
So in first response, it is stating apply pressure to the wound. Proceed to put pressure on the area that is bleeding.
Okay, all right. Let me put this to you. A cut that is bleeding rapidly, and you apply pressure, or you apply gauze or whatever you choose to use, and that which you would have applied get soaked. It is fully soaked in blood. What should you do when this happens? Do you take that one off, throw it away, or do what do you do?
All right, so I'm reading from the chat. All right, apply more gauze to the area without removing the soaked gauze or cotton. Tie a cord before the opening of the wound. If it is on your leg, tie off the area.
Right,
apply pressure. If the cloth is fully blooded, put another one on it. So what they're basically saying, you continue to add cloth.
All right, that's the answer I'm looking for, because persons tend to throw away the one that is wet and apply a dry one to the area. But no, the correct thing to do is to keep applying. So there and then the wound will be now suppressed fully, and that will enable the bleeding to stop. Another way in which we can stop bleeding is to tie above that cut. So you tie above it in order to stop the bleeding. The victim is being electrocuted. Somebody share with me the steps you follow if you find somebody being electrocuted. I know these things are not new to us, so let us share what we know and what we understand.
So first step I'll take, and if someone is being electrocuted, is to find the source from which the electricity is coming from and try to disconnect that. So that would be my first step.
Adding from the chat, Master Guide Partner, we are also hearing that the source need to be turned off. Do not touch the person. Use a piece of wood to push the person off. Next, disconnect electricity and try performing CPR if the person shows no sign of circulation. We are also getting again that we need to turn off the switch. After removing the power source, you administer CPR. if needed.
All right. So, who should you hit? The person or the wire?
Hit the person off the wire.
Yes, you see, but that's the reason I asked the question, because in trying to save somebody, you might end up injuring the person further, because hitting that person could very well bring that person harm as well. So we try to hit the wire off than to hit the person itself. All right. All right. We will continue by looking at the victim as an heart attack. We will look at that further. And the victim is on fire. We also look at that further on in the slide. And the victim drowning and also poisoned. Let us look at one answer came when we talk about the breathing, is that we look for signs of rising and fall of the chest, which was correct. We listen to their mouth and nose for breathing sounds. That was also correct. And we feel their breath against our chest for 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds the most, because by then you would expect to at least get some signs of breathing. This one is also a very technical one, an heart attack. Someone having an heart attack may experience many or all of the following: uncomfortable pressure, fullness or squeezing pain in the center of the chest, discomfort or pain spreading behind the chest to the shoulders, back, neck, jaw, teeth, or both arms, occasionally upper abdomen. And point to note is that not all of these signs are contributed to an heart attack. All right? So not because you might be having some of these signs or symptoms necessarily means that you're having an heart attack. But it's also good to know that some of these signs are contributing factors to an heart attack. So if you're having these signs, we are encouraged not to take them lightly, but that we seek the medical help that we need. It is better to be safe than to be sorry. All right? There are other signs: shortness of breath, lightheadedness, dizziness, fainting, sweating, nausea. All right? And as I said, all of these are signs and symptoms, but not necessarily means that that is what you're having. All right? All right, so all this information you will find in the honor. So we must also be mindful that an heart attack can occur at any time. In every situation, an heart attack, it shows signs. But at times we tend to ignore those signs. So a heart attack generally cause chest pain for more than 15 minutes, but it can also have no symptoms. it's important to be aware that symptoms other than chest pain may occur, such as indigestion or persistent neck and jaw pain. Many people who experience a heart attack have warning signs hours, days, weeks in advance. As I said before, these are signs that we will experience and we ignore them, thinking that they will go away. But generally, when we experience signs like these, we should consider them seriously. The young persons who are in their young age generally tend to ignore these signs because we tend to think that heart attacks are for the elderly. But I will hasten to tell you that gone are the days when some sicknesses and some diseases goes by genders or age. In today's generation, it is not so, because we have seen the young, the middle age, the older ones dying from the same types of sicknesses and showing the same types of symptoms. So we need to be aware that this can happen to any of us. All right?
Master Guide Faulkner, before we proceed, I think you may get to this shortly. What do we do when someone is having an heart attack? That may be coming up shortly. But another question that we have in the chat is in relations to difficulty breathing. To know if the person is breathing, wouldn't it be okay to put like a mirror under their nose or over their mouth to see if their air molecules or something like that is occurring?
Yes, man. When I ask you a question, those are the answers I'm looking for. Yes, that is also correct. You can use a piece of mirror and put it to the person's mouth or nose and see, and the sign that you will see is that the mirror becomes frost. So you know that there is breathing taking place. So we now look at the movement and moving of individuals. So I asked a question then. The first task in assessing an entire situation is to plan your rescue. Is that correct? All right, the answer is yes, that is correct. I'll give you a scenario. You are now faced with a situation that requires an emergency rescue. You have 5 minutes, the most, to perform that rescue. Question to the class. How do you use those 5 minutes when you're faced with that situation? Take me through the steps that you will use that 5 minutes to do. As it says here in the slide, you will first assess the entire situation and plan the rescue. As we go down in this slide, you will see wherein the person will have to be removed. First, you assess the situation. For the person to be removed, you must locate an area to which you're going to bring the individual. You must also take into consideration to make sure that you know whether or not you can perform this rescue on your own or you will need help. you should also know that you can effectively manage to lift this person if needed before you attempt to lift. Because as I said before earlier, that whatever act of rescue you're going to perform, your safety comes first. So don't try to be Superman in being 150 pounds in weight and attempt to lift a 300-pound in trying to rescue them. All right, so these are the situations. You have to use that 5 minutes to map out all of this. How you're gonna lift, whether you can do it on your own, where you're gonna take the person, all of these are things that you will have to use your 5 minutes to do. And as soon as you have done that, then you decide now the way forward, right? So be sure you can perform the rescue without injuring yourself. Make sure that you can move the victim without further injuring the person. Because one thing is to lift the person from point A and then walk into point B, then you realize that this is not safe for the person. So you have to move on, walk in another, to find a safer spot to put the person. Then you find yourself now that you are now worn out because you have to be lifting this person for a long period. So it is first that you find where you're gonna put the person before you move the individual.
But in response to the question that you asked, the answers that you just gave are just the ones that were in the chat. They were saying call 119, report the incident, and most persons were saying assess the environment to see if there is anything that will harm you. And the final one that was just received, I believe that it is not safe for non-emergency persons to move a victim because they can give spinal injury. So what this person is saying, that it is best that if you're not a medical person, then you should not move someone because you may cause additional injury.
And that is correct. I will share with you that in one of my class while I was a student, the question was asked of us: an emergency, the person needs to be rescued. We don't have the appropriate gears in which to perform this rescue. Do we leave the individual to die, or do we try to save that life? How best would you feel or treat a situation wherein an individual came out of a situation alive or came out of it being paralyzed? It was a tough one for us, a very tough one for us, that we ponder for that entire day, because the intention and the objective of us being trained is to save lives. And there are situations that will face us that we have to make a decision. Do we leave this person because I don't have a spinal backboard? I leave this person because I am unable to move he or she on my own without further injuring them? Or do I leave them there to die? How far away from where I am will help come from? How far is the nearest ambulance service or fire service? How long can this individual stay in this condition? So these are situations that will face us, that we'll have to make a decision whether or not we'll do or we don't do. So these are just thoughts for you to consider as you move forward. But intention and the motive behind which we try to do this type of rescue is to save lives. And in saving lives is not to cause any further injury to the victim while we do what we are doing. Okay? So before moving the victim, as I said before, know where you intend to move the victim before lifting. If bystanders are nearby, use them. But be sure that you are the one who gives the directives. Because you know, sometimes you come up on situations, you see a motor vehicle accident and you find 10 persons giving instructions. One man is saying, put him at this, one is saying, put him at this, and one is saying, no, put. So this causes confusion. And the more time wasted is the more detrimental the condition of the person gets. So we need to have a leader who calls the decisions and to instruct what we do. So the reason for which you are now being trained MITs in these areas of basic rescue and first aid is whenever you come upon things like these, that you will assume that role of leading out. But if there's somebody there who is more experienced than you are, like a medical doctor or a firefighter who is trained in that avenue, then you allow those persons to take over, right? But you can still assist because you are trained to do so, all right? So unless the danger is immediate, any first aid should be given before moving the victim. So whatever situation that is required a rescue, always follow some first aid administration. So if you notice your basic rescue requirements, and if you had gone through first aid, you would have realized that first aid and basic rescue are similar in some things. In order to perform in every basic rescue performance would require some act of first aid. But that's the difference. So not in every first aid act don't necessarily means you have to make a rescue. All right? So you realize that basic rescue and first aid, they are so closely knit because one complements the other. So if you suspect a spinal injury, as we have just discussed, do not move the victim. So that's the first thing that we decide not to do. Don't move that victim. If you are not sure how to, or if you don't know how to, then it is suggested that you don't. But as I just shared a while ago, there are some instances where this principle can be adjusted when you know what to do and how to do it. All right? We move on if there's no question. All right? So be sure it is necessary to move the victim. Know how you will move the victim before trying. You have just gone through that. And we will move the victim too. So these are the principles that governs movement of victims or patients. Be sure that you are able to do those type of lifting and maintain your balance while doing those lifting. So it is important that we know how to lift, because some persons lift things and end up injuring themselves. So we must maintain that balance when doing the lifting. We must lift, move, never be in an unbalanced position. Keep your footing throughout the move. And it is best that when you're lifting, that you bend your knees, because those lifting needs the foot for those strength. We are running because we have gone through all these in further up because the time is going. So we're trying to go quickly through all of this. So we have gone through electricity and how to treat. Let us look at a room filled with smoke. Question to the class. What do you understand from a room filled with smoke or fume? And how would you help someone or yourself from a room filled with smoke?
All right, so Andavia Clark, you may unmute your mic and speak.
Good morning.
Morning.
In a case where there is smoke or fumes in a room, there is more oxygen to the ground, so you would have to like crawl or something to get the person out.
Okay. So as we understand it, that smoke rise, correct? So it is best that we stay low. Any other?
Smoke rises, we have confirmed that. Wet cloth to cover the person's nose and mouth. Get as close to the ground as possible. Stay as low as possible.
All right. So those are the answers that I'll be looking for. As I said before, these are things that we know, but sometimes we don't practice them and we don't share them with those who don't know. So this might not happen to you, but it can happen to someone else. So the further you share it and the more you share it, the better persons will be if and when they are faced with these situations. So the knowledge you gain should not be kept to yourself. We should impart them. Whether or not you know it, yes or no, you don't know how far and wide that which you have shared would have gone. All right? We look at this acronym, RACE, which is race. And this is used in carrying out a rescue situation. So it is, R is carrying out a rescue operation. A is call fire department. C is confined, which is closed door and windows. And E is to extinguish, try to put out that fire. So if you find yourself in a room filled with smoke, we just learned, we crawl. If you can cover your mouth and nose with a wet cloth, you do so. If it's not wet, then you have to use a dry one anyway. All right? In order to do this, I'll put the scenario to you again. You're in a room and the fire is on the outside and you are locked into your room. The alarm went off that there is a fire outside. Let's say you're in a building and there's a passageway and the fire is out in the passage. You are in your room. Take me through the steps that you would follow to keep yourself safe until you're rescued.
Sir partner.
Yes, ma'am. Morning.
Yes. Just to give a push start for the answering. What I would do is to ensure that I don't attempt to open the door and block the bottom of the door to keep the smoke from coming in as much as possible. So that is what I would do first.
All right, thank you very much. Because I want to know that the students are following. Because if you notice on the screen, you will see where it says, make your way to the door. And if the door is closed, feel it. These are the steps that I want you to follow. Think about the situation. The fire is on the outside. What the fire needs is oxygen. So if you're inside your room and the fire is outside, the fire can only get in when you open the door or when the door burns down. So you have enough time to do some cooling down operation. As long as you have water in that room, you can keep that door wet. But in no point, you should be quick to open that door. You can close the window if you can't escape through it. So you shut off the wind from coming inside. Remember now, the fire is in the passageway. So even if the door can open, you will have to contend with that fire going through the passageway. So it is best if you stay inside, keep the fire from coming in. All right? Or you try to find another way out. But you see, sometimes we look at situations, we tend to think of the more modern type of things. But remember that the ways in which some of our houses are now built, we are now caged into our own living with all the burglar bars we can find. So you find that the veranda is grilled. You find that the room doors are now grilled. And all the windows that surround the house are grilled. So we find ourselves that we are now caged in case of an emergency. One of the key points to note is we need to know where to find the keys for that grill. So your mother comes in, open that grill, she puts the key on the center table. Somebody comes in again, get the key, open the grill, then put the key on top of the chester jar somewhere. Another person comes in and take that key and put it into the kitchen. So when you find that in a case of emergency and we need to get out and the padlock to the grill is locked, nobody knows where to find that key. So we need to have a central spot where that key is always placed. We also need to know when building our houses or when living in a dwelling that we always find an escape route in case of an emergency. Because the time we're going to spend running around finding places or trying to get out when we would have already identified a place that we will use for our escape or exit. So those are key points, and those are important things to know and to teach our children and our grandparents that this is where the key is and this is where the key will always be. All right? So first, we try to keep the fire from getting in. Keep the doors closed. Close the windows. If we can't seem to get out of that building. All right?
Master Guide Partner,
Yes, sir.
we have a raised hand, but before I take Militia Powell, then a question has been asked. What about wetting the clothes that you're in?
Yes, man, that is also a factor. That is also part of the cooling down. So in case you have to go through the fire, you have to understand though, let me share with you quickly before you take that raised hand. The building is on fire. You have to get out. And if the only means of getting out of that building is through that passageway, is it better to get burned and live than to die in that fire? Think about it. You can take the question from that raised hand.
All right, Militia Powell, you may unmute your mic and speak.
Okay, thank you. In response to what Master Guy Faulkner was saying in regards to the buildings, I am also thinking that when we grill our windows, we should build them in such a way that they can swing open. So we should have at least maybe 1 or 2 windows in the house that we can always go to for emergencies. And this is something that as Master Guys we can recommend to the planning committee at the, what they call a place there. I don't remember the name of the place that you have to submit your plans to.
Parish council.
But these are recommendations that we can make to them as well.
To the parish council.
Parish council, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, good idea. But it's quite unfortunate though that we have to be living in these kind of conditions where we have to imprison ourselves in our own homes. All right, this one is also one of those that have caused many discussion at times and panic. And I should have shared with you earlier that in any situation that we intend to perform an act of rescue or give any service in regards to first aid, that you, the rescuer or the first aider, remains calm. Always remember to remain calm. We are tempted sometimes to be emotional, especially when it is our loved ones, a family member. We are so emotional in assisting. But I would ask you that you make importantly that you remain calm. One, that you try not to get panic. Because 2 things. You, the rescuer, need to assure the victim that he or she is going to be okay. You, the first aider, need to assure your victim that he or she will be okay. And you can only do that if you yourself is calm and you are not panicking. Because the victim needs assurance. The victim needs to be assured that regardless of what is happening to me, I'm going to be okay. Because one of the first things that happens to a victim when trapped in a situation is that he or she is going to die. You can assure this victim that I am here to help you. You are going to be okay. You can talk this victim through the whole process. But if you are panicking and you are not calm, then you would have lost the opportunity to save a life. Always remember to stay calm and not to panic. So I need to be rescued. You are here to rescue me, but then you are run upon and you whole place a ball and a scream and a Jesus and a ball and a help. That does not assure me that I'm being helped. You need to talk me through what is happening. Sir, this is happening to you. Sir, I'm here to help. Sir, madam, please remain calm. My name is X. I am here to help. Talk the person through their situation. Take their minds off what is happening to them. What is your name? You know, where do you work? Ask questions. So this will help the person to take their mind off what is actually happening to them and to engage in a conversation. So that will now allow the person to breathe properly, because that individual will now be panicking, start behaving out of control. And panicking is one of those stages wherein your breathing becomes rapid. So you're now gone into a panic attack. So the person is now panicking. You are not calm. You are also panicking. So who is going to help who? So it is very important that you try your best to remain calm and to talk to the person while you're going along with them. All right? So a person is on fire. Or you yourself, your clothes might catch fire. What do you do? It says we get the person to the ground and roll him over on the ground. What if the person is running? What do you do? Question to the class. Because the first thing that's going to happen to an individual when they find themselves burning, their clothes caught fire, the first thing that individual tends to do is to run. Tell me now, what would you do, MIT, as the rescuer?
All right, so advise the person to stop, drop, roll.
All right, good. That is in advise then. So what if the person doesn't take your advice? Remember, as I said earlier, the rescue must be done. It is immediate that it be done. So the person will not stop running, but you have to help this person. What do you do? All right, quickly I'll share with you, because this act of rescue is one that have to be done. So I'll have to run the person down. I have to try catch a person, not hold on to, but to get them to the ground. Whatever means it takes me to get this person to the ground, I will have to. Whether kicking them down, tripping them, whatever it takes, I need to get this person on the ground. The person who is on fire will never think quick enough that these are, you're trying to help me. They are running to find help. And trying to find help, not realizing that help is right beside you. So the fact of you being panicking robs you of the ability to think. So the first option is to run. And in running, the fire gets worse because it is now being fed by that wind. That oxygen that is now blowing makes the fire worse. So you find that the person is now burning in blaze because the person is running. So it is for you to get that person to the ground. Whatever it takes, you have to do that. All right? So get the person to the ground in whatever means it takes to do so. Another option is to wrap the person, the victim, with blanket. If you catch a person, that is, that can be done. Roll the person over in the dirt. Remember now that with this in mind, the person will get sunburn. Depends on how long the person ran for, and depends on how long the fire takes to put out. All right, the person will suffer some burns, but it is better to have a few burns and still have your life to live. All right, so that is the purpose for which you would administer first aid or trying to rescue somebody. The aim is to preserve life. All right, we look at fire, and this diagram is the triangle of combustion and X. As we look at this, I want somebody, an MIT, to take me through what you have seen here. Explain to me the process. Fire, what caused fire? Just take me through the process, MITs, what you understand from this diagram. Combustion and extinction.
All right, there are responses in the chat, but I would rather if maybe you want to explain verbally. But a response that I got in the chat is the type of extinguisher for a type of fires or what the fire is caused by.
All right. I will go with the next slide will speak to that. What I'm asking is, you find in this diagram fuel, starvation, air, smothering, heat, cooling. For a fire to start, it needs what?
Air and fuel.
All right, to start a fire needs fuel. All right? To get the fire going, it needs what?
Air.
Air. To get that fire out, needs what? So let us look at what we looked at before with your room, for instance. A fire started by fuel. So in order to starve this fire, we're going to put out what? We need to starve this fire by starvation. We need to stop what?
Adding fuel.
No, you have fuel already.
Air.
So you have to starve the fuel, which is the fire now. We have starvation now. So what do we do to starve, to cause the starvation of this fuel?
Smother the air.
Here. So look at the room now. So the fire is in the room. So what you're gonna do now? You're gonna close the windows and you're gonna close the door, because you want to now starve this fire because it needs air in order to get big, all right? Remember now that every fire starts small and every fire can be controlled, can be contained if it's caught early. Remember that. every fire starts small. But if it is left unattended, or if it is not quickly caught, then that fire gets big. So starvation of this fire would need the absence of air. And with the absence of air, this fire will never be able to excel. So the heat that is now caused from this fuel, from this fire, will now need cooling down. So now that you contain the fire by cutting the air, you can now go to cooling down. So you keep the fire under control. One of the first things, as I mentioned a while ago, is not to get panic. The first instances, never get panic. Because every fire starts small. So you are in your kitchen and you are frying chicken, and the frying pan goes up into flame. The fire caught the window curtain in the kitchen, because some of us have our stove underneath our windows or close to our windows. So let's say the window get caught fire, the curtain. What do? I can tell you before you tell me. The first thing that one will do is get panic. And get panic, you run away, screaming for help. Fire, fire, fire. No, that curtain that just caught fire was this small. You could easily drag that curtain down, throw it into the sink, turn on the pipe on it. Or you move the frying pan from the fire. So as long as the frying pan is not on the stove, that fire in the frying pan will die. But the first thing that we tend to do is to run away. Remember I said, every fire starts small, and every fire can be controlled and be contained. All right? So let us think about it. We must be quick to think and not to be panic. Being panic robs you of the ability to think and to act. Remember that in every situation that faces us, the first thing not to do is panic. Assess the situation, think about it quickly, think what to do first, what to do next. Because what? A fire can easily be contained and be controlled. All right? So remember the principles: fuel, air, and heat. All these are what contributed to a fire. So as long as we can contain this, then we are able to control a fire and prevent it from getting worse. I realize you have half an hour to go. Let's look at the question we just asked a while ago. Somebody alluded to fire extinguisher. All right? The diagram is showing the different types of fire extinguishers. So we look at the type of fire. So each fire comes in stages. We have class A fire, class B fire, class E fire, and class F. And this diagram will show you the different types of fires and the different types of extinguishers that is used for different types of fire. If we notice here, The extinguisher type for a class A fire. We see here we have wood, paper, textiles, etc., normal combustibles. So we find that a class A fire, it is best to use what type of extinguisher? We have dry chemical, we have carbon dioxide chemical, we have water extinguisher, sorry, we have foam, and we have wet chemical. So we notice here that the different types of extinguishers is used for different types of fire. Of these 4 types of extinguishers, which of them is mostly and widely used of all the 4? Question.
All right, so the first response is foam.
Foam is the one that is mostly used.
Dry chemical powder. Dry chemical powder.
And that is correct. Because if you notice, for a class F fire, which is caused by cooking oil or animal fats and vegetable fat, if you notice, of all the 4 types of extinguishers, a dry chemical is not recommended. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is not recommended. A water extinguisher is not recommended. Neither is a foam recommended. So for the class F fire, the extinguisher that is used is the wet chemical. The dry chemical is the one that is widely used because it is used in in 3 of the 4 fires. So it is important that if you notice though, that in most of our public buildings, if you find a fire extinguisher there, it will always be a dry chemical. I know that we have never stopped to look at it, but it is the most widely used. All right? Because a dry chemical and a wet chemical for the paper and the normal types of fire, the wet chemical can be used. It can be used with the foam, and it can be used with the water. All right? So let us take note of the different types of fire extinguishers and what is used in different types of fire. All right? And it is important that we know them and that we understand how they are used. Let me share with you, or let me ask a question. Give me some home remedies for burn or for some types of fire. Let's say the cooking oil, the stove, you're frying meat. Give me some home remedies as to what you can use to put out such a fire. Because not every home will have fire extinguishers, but there are still some things that we can do from home.
So the first 2 responses in the chat, came a third one. We have sand and we have cornmeal.
All right. Okay. Cornmeal and sand, yeah. Any other? Did we know that baking soda can be used as well? We can use salt. These are things that we can also use to put out that type of fire. We're looking at drowning using a non-swimming rescue. Let me point out to you before we never at any time try to save someone who's drowning if you can't swim. And let me go further. Even if you can swim, never attempt to save someone who's drowning if you're not trained to do so. Remember, being able to swim is not enough. Being able to swim and to save someone's lives takes more. So even though you can swim, if you're not trained in lifeguard type of rescue, never attempt to go out to save that person. All right? We'll run along since you will find this information in your slide or in the project that you will be doing. A non-swimmer is typically in panic, as I said to you, and most of the times those who are going to save the individual is also in panic because he's your brother, she's your sister, he's my son or she's my daughter. So that act of trying to rescue that person, you are panic in doing so. So you also lose the ability to think. So you are panic, and the individual who's drowning is also panic. And in trying to save such a person, you put your life at risk. You have ever heard of it wherein the news says that 2 brothers drowned? You ever ask yourself, how possible could that be? It is possible because one saw the other drowning and go trying to help and end up that one who's drowning hold on to the other, trying to save himself and end up killing both. So as I said to you, you the rescuer need to ensure that your safety is secure, because there's no sense in you trying to help someone. It is not wise for you trying to rescue someone and you yourself need to be rescued. So let us be careful that in trying to help, we make sure that we are safe. So instead of entering the water, start the victim, coach them into kicking their legs. You can throw a life jacket, a rope, a bamboo, something that will float to assist the person in holding on to it so you can pull them in. But at no time at all, it is recommended that you go out there to hold on to the individual. So whatever you try to do, make sure that you are protected. All right? In no point at all, you attempt to go out there. I'm going to share a video here, a short little video. Look at the situation.
We've seen a number of drownings involving young people this summer.
So what can you do if you see someone struggling in the water? News 4's George Rickard is live at Squaw Island with important information that could save a life. George?
Yeah, Jackie, last summer I covered a drowning in this pond. It was a young man who drowned because he was trying to save someone. That's exactly why the Red Cross says if you are not a trained lifeguard, try to save someone from shore first. And if you're tempted to go out there anyway, don't unless you bring something that floats.
Reach or throw. Do not go. Going is your last option, but reach with whatever you have Anchor yourself, make sure that you're safe. We don't want 2 or 3 more victims.
At Flickinger Pool downtown, lifeguard instructor Carol Reese showed us the items you may find next to a pool or a swimming spot. Getting them within reaching distance of a drowning person can save their lives, but also keep them from pulling you underwater in a panic.
A towel might be one of the first things. Well, you always take a towel with you to the beach. Soak the towel really well, dunk it in the water, and just whip it out to the person with you holding on, making sure you're anchoring. At one point, I got in, but I was anchored to the side. I made sure that I was safe as well.
If you have a flotation device, how do you approach the victim with it?
Keep the flotation device between you and the victim so that you're not going to grab me. I'm going to have that device between us so that you can grab that and I'm still safe and we can both go to shore.
Back here live at Squaw Island, you see the no swimming signs are up. You don't ever want to swim where you don't know what's under the surface. That the demonstration you just saw, they did 2 hours ago for us at the Red Cross instructors, and we thank them for that. You should know that there are lifeguard courses, basic water rescue courses, and backyard pool courses, all offered by the Red Cross, and you can find their link on WIVB.com. Live at Squaw Island, George Rickard, News 4 at 6.
Hi, I'm Park Ranger Amy Redmond.
I'm Park Ranger Catherine Wall with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Today we're going to demonstrate how to assist the person struggling in the water by using these items and techniques found in the phrase reach, throw, row, but don't go.
While holding onto a secure part of the dock or boat, reach your hand, oar, towel, stick, or whatever you may find around you out to the victim. In this situation, we have chosen an oar.
Make sure the victim grasps the oar's neck with both hands and not the paddle. The paddle portion of the oar can become slick with water, possibly causing a victim to lose their grip.
If you can't reach the victim, throw items that float, such as a throw bag, life ring, life jacket, or even a closed empty cooler. When using a throw bag or rescue item with rope tied to it, anchor the rope by making a knot at the end of the rope and stepping just inside the knot, or anchor it to the dock or boat. The rescuer and victim should never tie the rope around their wrists, neck, or body.
When throwing a rescue item, you should communicate with the victim that you will be throwing the item by yelling, rope, 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 or throw, throw, throw.
Throw, throw, throw.
The rescuer must also be sure not to throw directly at the victim. It is best to throw slightly upwind so that the item has a better chance of drifting back.
Once the victim has a hold of the rescue item, the rescuer can either row up to the victim or pull the victim back to the boat by using a hand-over-hand method. If you're in a boat and someone falls overboard, stop the boat immediately. Make a circle back to the person, but never reverse to retrieve them.
A typical propeller can travel from head to toe on a person in 1/10 of a second. To prevent injury by the boat's propeller, turn off the boat's motor and row up to the victim.
If you're on land and you can't reach the victim, call for help. Never go in the water after the victim unless you're trained in emergency water rescue. Even a strong swimmer can drown while trying to rescue a victim.
And remember to always wear your kill switch. In the event that the operator is thrown overboard, the boat's motor will shut off as soon as the kill switch lanyard is pulled away from the dash.
So remember, reach, throw, row, but don't go. The life you save could be someone you love.
Okay, thank you very much. Here in Jamaica, we don't have these type of situations to contend with. As I was saying, here in Jamaica, we don't have these type of situations to contend with. But who knows? It's a world of travel. So we can find ourselves anywhere in the world. So we have scenarios and situations and conditions that happens to us every day or to our loved ones. So it is best if we have knowledge of what to do, how to do, and when to do. So we can either share it or we can either use it to assist. So an ice accident can occur just the way a drowning accident can occur. As shown a while ago in those two videos, the importance of not to go if you're not trained to do so. It is best if you throw something out to the victim. The same applies to an ice accident. Never attempt to go out on that ice to save that individual, because the very way that person first falls beneath that ice could be the very same way you fall as well. So be sure that you understand the principles that surrounds incidents like these, and try not at the first attempt to venture out in order to save. Call for help before you do anything. And in performing an ice rescue, as I just asked a while ago, do not run out to the victim. Remember that ice is thin, and if it can't hold the one person, it will never hold both of you. So remember those principles, never to run out to save the victim. Earlier I shared with you the importance of remain calm. So rescue the victim, tell the victim to remain calm, that you are aware of his predicament and that you are here going to help, because persons are more assured when you tell them that you are helping them. All right, so at all times in performing any act of first aid or basic rescue, that you ensure your victim that he or she will be okay and that you are here to help them. And at no point should you leave your victim unattended to. So when the victim hears your voice, sees you around them, and when you're gone to get help, that person feels that he or she is left alone to die. Try as best as possible not to leave your victim. If you have to move away from the victim, go as far as the person can still hear your voice when you're shouting for help. But at all times, your victim should be able to see you or to hear your voice. All right, so never leave your victim unattended by trying to get help. All right, any question?
No questions in the chat at this time, Master Guide Faulkner.
Okay. As we have just shared in both rescuing, both the swimming and the ice rescue, that we throw something out to the victim if we can find anything long enough. So since we speak of master guides and master guides in training, and most of our activities that surrounds incidents like these would have been camping or beach trips or rivers. So it is best as leaders that when we are going out on these type of excursion that we travel with rope. Never leave your rope when going camping. The campers should have their own ropes. The leaders also should have their own rope, because at any point a camper can get lost and need these instruments to help them and assisting them in what they're doing. All right. So I'm going to share this video with you, another video, which have to do with the ice incident.
That amazing ice rescue caught on tape, and Ron is here with that story.
Hey, hi again, Dan. Well, this happened in the mountains of Southern California. It started off looking like an innocent winter sledding outing for a while. Then suddenly, everything changed and went awry. The screams say it all. You're watching new video of a sledding excursion gone horribly wrong. The whole thing starts when a man falls into a freezing cold lake in Wrightwood, California, and then a chain reaction of sorts. One person after another trying desperately to save him, and one person after another getting sucked into the frigid water like a black hole.
Throw the rope out! Lasso! Pull him in!
As the clock ticks, more men, women, and children try to come to the rescue, only to slip into the ice themselves. A crowd gathered on the shore as well, frantically screaming for help.
Call 911 right now!
After 5 minutes, nearly a dozen people are in the water, while others throw ropes and inner tubes to no avail.
Give me the rope from under the seat! Under the now! Now! Right there!
Mickey Herman pulled double duty. You can hear him calling for a rope to help in the rescue efforts, all the while capturing the ordeal on camera.
And when the people started going through the ice, it was just total panic. You saw people taking their belts off. It was just total chaos and out of control. We saw that poor guy, the first one to go in. It was obvious he didn't know how to swim. Thought that might be it. We wouldn't see him again. Unfortunately, he came back up.
A harrowing 9 minutes later, the man who first fell in, along with all of his would-be rescuers, managed to make it out of the water. And amazingly, all of them are doing just fine. And Dan and Bianna, you know, the thing that they did wrong here, what you're not supposed to do, is to go on the ice to try to get someone out. Now, people there had rope. They should have gone to their cars and gotten the rope. Easier, for me to say now.
You want to help
but yeah, exactly. But the mistake was going out on the ice, as you saw. One person after another fell in. If you have rope or a way to get them out, go for that immediately. That's the lesson.
Lucky that they're all alive.
They're very lucky.
Good news this morning that everybody's safe.
All right, so that's a principle that surrounds this type of rescue. Never attempt to go out. Always try to save them from a distance. We know the distress call sign, which is SOS. We know when to use this type of sign. So in all rescue, wilderness rescue, trapped on sea, the SOS alert is what is used when signaling for help. You can, if it's a desert where a beach where sun is, you can use stones or whatever you can find to carve out the letters SOS. And because it can be seen from a distance, you can either place them east to west or west, whatever form you can do, so it can be read from any angle. All right. You can also, it's recommended that you light 3 fires. You can either light them in a straight line or in a triangular form, because those are signs of help, that you need help. You need to be rescued. All right. But any questions so far as we go along though?
There are no questions in the chat at this time.
Okay. So these are the ways that you will make your fire, and because these are indications, signals that you need help and you need to be rescued. Another one you can use is a piece of mirror, a piece of glass that will reflect. So the aircraft or the ship whatever it is that you need to notify that you need rescue. They will also see the reflection from that mirror. And it is universal that whenever you see this, it means that you need help. All right? Important to know when we look at this aspect of reporting a missing child or adult. If at home, your child is missing, what are the first things that you do? As I said, the first thing that we'll do customarily is start crying and get panic. All right? But we need to understand that crying, if you must, but it does not help in the situation. So let us keep calm first and think as to what next to do. So if at home and you know, carefully contact your child's friend or the neighbors or some co-worker of yours, somebody who's close to you. If the child, you know, would have gone to their house, or your neighbor would have taken the child, walk down the road or something. But try to find somebody who the child is close to and to see if they have the child before you start running around and panicking. If an adult is missing for 24 hours or more, you contact your friends, known friends of you and the individual, where the person hung out, you know, whether they hang out at church or some situations they hang out at bars and some things. Find some of those places where the person normally hang out, on the street corner with their friends. You know, these are places that you will try to locate or try to get information first before you make that report of that the person is missing. If you are expecting loved ones to return from abroad or from country or anywhere, and you find that the time has passed and the person have not arrived, you know, don't get panicked for the first thing. The things you need to do is to you call the travel agent, call the airport, see if the flight is delayed, or see if the person had left the island from which they are coming from before you think that they are in your island. So those are things that you need to find out before you start reporting that the person is missing. All right? You give information such as the color of the person's eye, ear, and skin. A picture is best if you have one. Any identifying marks such as scars that the person might have on the body. A tattoo, which is now being widely used and worn around the world. So these are information that you will share that will better be able to identify the person who is missing. The clothes the last person was seen wearing, details on the vehicle the person was in, any adult maybe driving when last seen, the age, the date of birth of the individual. All these are information that you will need. A nickname is also essential because most persons go by their nicknames. So you can know somebody to be Donovan Brown, but others know him to be Skinny. So know the person's nickname and use the nickname when you're asking if they have seen such a person. All right? The information cannot only be used to identify a child, but to retrieve the child and gain trust with the police. So the police will also need some vital information. And one of those information you can give to the police is the name of the person's doctor or dentist. Because for instance, let's say your grandparent gone wandering and the police would have found the individual. Let's say the person suffers from Alzheimer or memory loss. The police officer will now need to talk to this individual, and the person are more familiar with names or persons that are close to them. So the police would need to know the person's doctor or dentist or pastor. So you can say, you Pastor X or Doctor, you know, So the person familiar with these names, so the person will be able to trust the police, that the police is there to help him or her. All right, let us look at quickly. A person is lost in the wilderness, or you go camping and a pathfinder is lost, or you, the individual, is lost. I'm going to ask a question and I need an answer to this question. If you are lost, what is the first thing that you would do?
Take note of your surrounding.
That's the first thing that you will do, take note of your surrounding.
Determine my location, landmarks. Next, pray.
All right, let me share with you. It might sound funny, but the first thing you do if you're lost is to acknowledge that you are. Does that make sense? The first thing you do is to acknowledge that you are lost. It might sound funny. You see, unless you acknowledge that you are lost, you will never do anything else. So you'll find yourself wandering all over the place, walking up and down, not knowing where you're going, and then you're further away from where you should be. So first, you can laugh at yourself if you must, but acknowledge that I am lost. I am lost, so I need to do something. First, after acknowledge you're lost, then you can pray. Because I'm gonna pray and ask God for help when I didn't acknowledge I'm lost. So you're lost. God help me. The Lord's gonna help you now. First, you retrace your steps. Find the spot that you remember. All right? You mark the spot, whether it's a tree, a rock, something that will not move. You can mark that spot by stripping away some of the bark of the tree, or you scratch a section of the rock, because this will tell you that this is where you have been. Because some trees can look alike and some rocks can shape the same. So you make a mark on the tree or make a mark on that rock. And after identifying that spot that you are now, you will now try to locate some place that you are familiar with. So you will walk 100 feet away east, and you make a circle around there, and you did not find anything that is familiar. You didn't hear any sound. You're shouting for help, no response. You will walk back to that spot that you were, walk another 100 feet away to the other side, repeat that same procedure, no response. You come back to that spot again, walk again. You're going east, west, north, and south. And after going east and you find nothing, you come back to that spot, you go west. You repeat that same procedure, you find nothing. You come back, you go south. You find nothing, you come back to that spot, east, west, north. So you now go north, you find nothing. You come back to that location. Because by then, if you have walked 100 feet or more, and you don't hear any of the campers that you are with, you can't identify anywhere that you have passed or that you remember, then you're gonna settle in your mind, pending the time of the day. The further you go, it is the worse you make the situation. Because remember now, that the moment you drift off course, the campers that you are with, the leaders that is carrying you, will now realize that David is missing. So they now will in turn start searching for David. So while they're walking, coming to this direction, David is now walking, going that direction. So they can't catch up with David. But if David had stopped, where David realized that he is lost, stop right in that section, do what he have to do, that 100 feet walk back and forth. By then, sorry, by shouting, sorry, and calling for help, those who are coming for David would have heard the shout and would have known where he is. But if David is continue walking, trying to find his way, while others are trying to find him, then that will be a waste of time. So it is best for you who realize that you're lost to stop at a location, make that circular movement, and if you can't find or hear any sound, remain in that position. Depends on the time of the day, you decide to sleep right there. Because it is better to search for you in the morning than in the night. So wherever you are, be sure that you find a location safe enough where you can sleep. And that prayer that you have prayed, that God will watch over you and that God will help you, you can rest assured that that prayer would have been answered. So at no point at all, when you realize that you're lost, that you continue walking. It is best if you stop where you are until those who are looking for you will find you. And if not, I can tell you without a doubt that God is in control and he will protect you. So the principles to follow is, first, acknowledge that you are lost. Pray, think, and then you act. Acknowledge you are lost, pray, think, and then you act. And your action should be one that is in control, that you have control of those actions and you're not acting out of impulse and panic, right? As long as you acknowledge you're lost, you're better able to think your way through and to do the necessary things to be rescued or to find your way back to your campsite. Remember at all times, as Master Guides in training, you will become a leader and leading boys and girls. So whatever you do in all of what we are now teaching you, they will become applicable some part of your leadership. And the ability to think and to act is critical, because your pathfinders will need to be assured and need to be comforted that if he or she gets into trouble, their leader is able to take them through. So as leaders, it's important that you learn to swim. It's important that you learn to swim. Because as long as you're going to take your pathfinders out, regardless of where you think of going, you might end up where water is. And as children, you know how the children behave. So at all times, make sure that one of the leader or all of the leaders know how to swim and how to rescue. All right? As leaders as well, we need to be assured that we love outdoors and our children are assured that our leaders are safe and prepared to protect us. And parents would also need to be assured that you who are taking their children out are responsible people and you are people who have the ability to protect their children. So all of these information that you will see and that you will reproduce is there for to help you in your leadership with your Pathfinder clubs or with your family members at school and friends. Because who knows at what point will all of these information will come handy to you. All right? So all of these are when persons are lost, aircraft, and identifying the signs and locations that you are, with the mirror that reflects the light from the sun shining toward that aircraft. The aircraft and the pilot will now seize that signal, knowing that you need help, and they will come to rescue you. As I said before, if you find yourself lost in the wilderness and you have to sleep, tell yourself that you have to sleep. In the morning, it will be better for you to start searching again for location. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you find the information shared useful and that you will endeavor to challenge yourself with the knowledge that you have gained in trying to assist somebody that needs rescue. I hope and trust that as we take part in these activities, in training in the different areas as MITs, that you will do so with the assurance that any act of rescue or any act of assisting in first aid will be needed, whether by your Pathfinders or your family members. So let us encourage others and share your knowledge. Share the knowledge that you have garnered this morning, those you have learned last night, those you will be learning coming up, because they will be useful to you one day. All right? Thank you very much for your participation, and have yourself a wonderful day.